This is James Mathers at Cine Expo 2018. I'm here with my friend Illya Friedman. He's the president of Hot Rod Cameras, but I've known Illya long before Hot Rod Cameras. We go back several decades. And you were one of the first people to deal with DSLRs and using them for filmmakers, and you came up with a lot of lens adapters. And now you've gone on to create a company that not only makes the adapters, but sells just about every brand of camera and lighting. So tell us a little bit about the history, how you got started with Hot Rod Camera and what you were doing before that.
Well, I don't know how much time you have, so I'll try to give you the short version. Short version is I spent about a decade working as a cameraman, and then I spent much of my adult life working in camera rentals. In 2006, I joined a company called DALSA, which was making the world's first 4K digital cinema camera. And then the global financial crisis happens in 2008, and our entire division actually got cut. I had a 1-month-old son at home, and my wife said to me, I thought that you would be working and I would be mom, so what you gonna do? A few months later, Hot Rod Cameras was born, and I had this idea for what would become the PL mount for the DSLR and the mirrorless cameras, which people weren't really calling them necessarily either of those things at that time, but small cameras that could shoot recognized flavors of high definition. And there was only one that wasn't even out yet, but I had some inside information that was coming. It was a Panasonic camera called the GH1. It was the only camera that could shoot 23:976 at 1920 by 1080 resolution. And so I made a prototype, went to NAB, had it in my pocket, and every time I'd bump into a DP or someone that I knew, I said, hey, if this existed and a little camera could shoot real HD and you could use proper lenses on it, would you use it as a director's finder or as a crash cam? And I kept getting really positive results, so I borrowed $60,000 and started Hot Rod Cameras in my garage. In about middle of 2010, I got approached by Rich Schluning from Zeiss. He said to me, Illya, your cameras are really popular, your modified Canons are really popular. People always come up to our trade show and trade show booths and say, hey, wow, this is really cool. Would you be interested in selling Zeiss compact primes? And I said, I don't know anything about sales. He goes, buy a lens, we'll see how it goes. And in 6 months, we'd sold a lot of lenses. And before I knew it, we had people coming up to us all the time saying, hey, we're here doing really great things with compact primes. Would you also like to sell this tripod? Or would you like to sell this light? And if you had visited me towards the end of 2010, it was kind of like a episode of that TV show Hoarders. It was myself in a 300 square foot room with boxes stacked to the ceiling, and people would come in and say, Hot Rod Cameras? And I have to say, back here. And you'd have to go around these boxes. Oh, you came for that tripod. Hold on. And I'd have to Tetris out the boxes to give to them. We moved to Hollywood at the end of 2011, beginning of 2012. We were there for about 5 years.
And then you outgrew that.
And we outgrew that. Now we're in Burbank, and we have about an 8,000 square foot space. And it was last year was the best year in the company history. So we're doing all right. We've got a lot of fun new stuff happening, and still trying to really focus on specialize in quality products and helping our customers in the best way possible, which, in my opinion, and stop me if I'm talking too long here, but my opinion is that there's a real information asymmetry that exists sort of in the retail market, in which it used to be that the consumers didn't have any information. Thanks to the internet, that's totally changed now, and there's a tremendous amount of information on the part of the customer, and most of the larger sales organizations, I think, are intimidated by that, and we're not. We want to have a good relationship, and we want to talk tech and talk in a very highly competent way with our customers to make sure they're getting what they want. Anyone can do a fulfillment. Anyone can say, here's a widget, we've got this widget, here's your widget. That's not really what we're about.
You're not a box store.
We're not a box store. We're about having long-term relationships with our clients and making sure they're getting what they really want, because I've found that if you have a problem on set, just saying that, oh, I know I can return this, is not an acceptable solution. You need to be able to pick up the phone and say, why is this not working, and have someone who can be there for you, and that's what we do.
Well, I can vouch for that. I bought a couple cameras from Illya, and we have a long-term relationship, and it really is. There's a lot of support there, and it matters.
Are those the cameras that are shooting us right now?
We're shooting with those cameras right now.
That's great. Fantastic.
So you are like the Switzerland of equipment, and I've been asking people that sit down with us about all the new large format. What are your feelings on large format? And suddenly people are needing to get new sets of lenses, and
wow.
there's a lot of change happening right now with lenses.
There is. I'll say that large format, full frame seems to be really popular right now. There's a lot of buzz about it. People are deciding that's the way they want to go. Do I think it'll be the standard into the future? I'm not sure, and probably offline I could have a much longer conversation about it, but I will say that the images that are coming out of these large format cameras are deeply impressive, really impressive in a number of ways, particularly in resolution and high dynamic range. Even if the sensors though were smaller, I still think those types of things, the things that our eyes pick up on as a quality image, wouldn't necessarily change. And just what's happening now is that the manufacturers are making their best sensors in these larger formats. There's also some great Super 35 and smaller sized sensors out there which are making incredible images because they're all from this latest generation. Every couple of years there's like a nice big jump in quality, and we're experiencing one of those jumps right now.
What do you see in the future?
I actually think that people will go to full frame for a while, and they will use full frame lenses, and they'll buy full frame lenses to protect themselves because they don't know where it's going to go. I still think Super 35 will be the dominant standard, and there's some really good reasons for that. Number one is I think there's a lot of people who aren't used to the extremely shallow depth of field and have not worked in motion picture in large format. When I worked at Dalsa, that was a full frame format camera back in 2006, and we learned right away that you want to work at a deeper stop. You want to adjust the way that you're shooting a little bit so that you have some depth of field. It's a big change from Super 35, which already was quite shallow. It's even shallower in full frame.
All right. Thank you so much, Illya.
Yeah,
it's always great visiting with you.
You too. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.